The tech tip for today is simply to always remember when you're thinking of common to what? One common mistake, no pun intended, that new techs will make is if something's labeled common, they will assume that all commons need to go together. And I'm going to use this illustration to show how wrong that actually is. Okay? But before I do, remember, just think common to what? So if I say, what is the common to this capacitor? You know from working with capacitors that on the three terminals, you'll have common, fan, and Herm. Well, you can't see it in the illustration, but the fan winding disappears and goes off to the fan over here somewhere. The other winding, which would be Herm, goes to the start winding on the compressor. And then the terminal labeled common will go to L2. L1 from your contactor will go straight to your common here. So one thing I want you to notice, if common on your compressor is L1 on your contactor and common on your capacitor is L2 on your contactor, obviously they don't go together. If you were to take L1 and touch it to L2, as in any situation you're working with electric, you take the opposite legs, touch them together, you have a dead short, and you're going to blow your breaker. So, always keep in mind that when you're thinking of common to what? For example, on our compressor terminals, we have common, start, and run. Common to the compressor only means that this common winding is shared between the run and start windings. Unlike on our capacitor, common on our capacitor simply means that this common terminal makes contact and is shared between the fan and start. So these two commons, the capacitor and the compressor, have nothing to do with each other. And again, I want to show you the flow here. So we go from common on our compressor, our gray wire, and it runs down to L1 on our contactor. Let's say this is L1, that's L2. Common on our capacitor comes out and runs to L2. They can never touch. These two commons can never touch. Our Herm terminal comes out of the capacitor and goes to the start. Keep in mind this is a run capacitor. That's another common misconception. A run capacitor means that it stays in series with the winding, so they'll be smaller, unlike a start capacitor, which needs a relay to kick it out immediately because, you know, a typical size of a start capacitor might be 150 to 200 microfarads. Well, you know, a run capacitor on a blower motor would be 3, 5, 7.5, 10, or a compressor might be 30, 35, 40, 45. Either way, a start capacitor is going to be much higher capacitance. Therefore, it needs a relay to take it out or open the circuit for the start capacitor immediately, a microsecond after it does its job. Whereas a run capacitor that's much smaller, say this one's a 45 microfarad, it's going to stay in series. So do know the difference that common, anytime you hear common, they do not all go together. And you need to decipher common to which component. Common to what? Is it the blower motor? Is it the common to the condenser motor? Is it the common to the capacitor? Is it the common to the relay? Is it the common to the sequencer? Is it the common to the compressor? And if they happen to go together, if they're coming from the same leg on the main power coming in, the supply power, that's fine. If they're not, they should never touch. So something to think about.